So today, welcome back to another episode of Paddle Forward. I'm your host, Anna Connie Walters, and today we're diving into a topic that is super close to my heart and my husband's. We are water-loving families, and we wanted to share with water-loving families everywhere about survival swim lessons. So we're going to explore why these lessons are crucial for both children and parents, and I'm going to share my own reflections as we embark on our personal journey through survival swim lessons with my son. Water, in my opinion, is such a beautiful and captivating element, but it also comes with risk, especially for young children. And that's why survival swim lessons have become such an essential practice for families who really enjoy being in and around water. These lessons, they don't only provide valuable skills for the children, the infants or the toddlers, but also peace of mind for the parents. And that's essentially what drove us to consider enrolling Garfield, our son, into survival swim lessons. So in this episode, I want to dive into why survival swim lessons are so important for water-loving families like ours. I want to explore the vital skills that children learn through these lessons, such as floating, breath control, self-rescue techniques. We'll also discuss the empowering effects that it has had on me as a parent and what you learn about yourself and your child as you witness them develop confidence, independence, and really a deep respect for water. Because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. I think that's something that I loved about being in Hawaii is their respect for the water. Because it really is. I mean, it's an element of earth, and it is the home to many creatures, and you need to respect it because it can definitely turn on you. There's a lot of, things that can, you know, really be dangerous. And so I feel like anything in that sort of kind of realm, you have to respect it, because if you lose respect for it, that's when you get into trouble. And I feel like that's with anything in life. But before we dive deeper, I just want to take a moment to share my personal reflections of my and my son's own journey through survival swim lessons. And I say that because my husband, although he's part of the journey because he's working full time, he hasn't really been able to participate and really be there for the swim lessons. So it really has been my journey with my son. And it's a path that has given us both super challenges and a lot of triumphs, though. And I believe it's important to discuss the emotional aspects, sort of kind of like a roller coaster that come with these types of lessons, especially as you watch your little ones develop these life-saving skills. And especially if you're like me, a new mom, and this is your first time going through it. I think if there were, for families who have multiple children, you don't necessarily get desensitized, but I think that you understand the process. You've seen the beginning to end progress. And so you kind of know what's going to happen. You've already been kind of, broken in a little bit, if that's acceptable. And we are in our we just finished our third week. No, we just finished our fourth week. Oh my gosh. And it just didn't feel like a fourth week because it was for the 4th of July week. And so we didn't get to swim Monday and Tuesday. We only got to swim Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And I say we, but in survival swim lessons, parents are not usually involved. They do give us parent days where we get to actually go in the pool with the child, but we really hadn't started those until week 3. And then they asked if I wanted to do another one this past Friday for week 4. And I think it was because he had such a long break. Really, he had 5 days without any type of swim practice, that he was really emotional again in the water. And I think the instructor was trying to get him to be more comfortable in the water. Definitely just a different experience for him with me being in the water. And I was a little bit worried because I wasn't sure if he would try to cling to me and not do what he was supposed to do because I was there as his comfort. But he really blossomed and opened up when I'm in the water with him, which is really nice to see. But I did a video, a vlog, and if you're interested or you're a visual learner and want to learn more, I really do go in depth in the YouTube video that I did. And there's videos of Garfield, my son, actually going through the process from week 1 all the way through week 3. My background is in emergency medicine. I actually started off as a lifeguard when I was in high school, became a lifeguard instructor, then went in to become a wilderness paramedic, then joined the Air Force and became an Air Force flight medic. And so in my mind, going through this or going into this, I really thought I was prepared. I really felt that, you know, this is good for him. It's essential. It's going to help build character. We're going to be fine. He's not even going to remember this and all these things. And I really felt like I was talking to myself in my old me before kids. And then we showed up and I had to hand him off. So she was very specific. Our coach is Coach Sandra from Swim Life Okinawa, and she gave us this whole parent orientation slideshow that I had to watch before we even went to our first day of swim training. And it was very specific and trying to make sure that we make the drop off very brief, because it just stresses the child out even further. And that I had to make sure that I went to the designated parenting area, and then that I would stay out of the line of sight of the child. So I was like, okay, yeah, totally understand, very prepared. And I handed him off, sorry, and to her. And I, I went and sat at the table. And I mean, there was no wait. Like, they immediately just started submerging him underwater. And he obviously started to scream and cry. And he doesn't normally like say mama or mom, not yet. Like, he makes these like sounds, and I just know that he's talking to me, but he doesn't like really say it. And he was actually saying mama, and I started to feel this emotion starting kind of like in my chest. And this, it almost feels like a flooding sensation. And I'm trying to just swallow, and I'm wearing sunglasses, and I actually videotaped it for my husband. And pretty much like as I'm videotaping it, I'm getting emotional, and I'm just telling my husband in the video, like, yeah, it's probably best that you didn't have to come to this, because oh my God, it is really hard to watch. And I sent it to him, and it's 15 minutes, and it just felt like it was forever. And I just kept watching her over and over, put him under the water and let him kind of like, scurry to the ledge. And just, she would give him a few minutes or a few seconds to catch his breath, and then she would do it again. And then in between, she would burp him so that if he was swallowing any water or swallowing from crying, the air, his stomach wouldn't get too distended. And so she waved me over. I went and I got him, and he was so relieved. And I literally had to leave the pool area, go into the parking lot, pretend that I was getting something out of my car. And I ended up recording myself as we were walking, and you'll see the emotion in the YouTube video of me just letting the actual emotion come through. And I tried not to cry too much because I didn't want it to affect him. And I just kept praising him. You did so awesome. You did so awesome. And then we went back in. I kind of gathered myself together, and we rinsed off. I got him undressed and everything. And then we got into the car. I gave him some snacks, and he seemed to be, fine. And we had to go to a meeting, and I literally cried the entire way to the meeting. I just, wow. Um, I, I just, I don't know. In my mind, I feel like some residual trauma from my birth experience kind of manifested, stuff that maybe I hadn't like dealt with fully. And I just could not stop crying. And the one thing that I do want to like touch on is that going into this, I had a lot of people who gave me unsolicited advice as to like what to expect and things to bring with me, their experiences. And it was like awful. Like they had no real great things to say. And I think moving forward and reflecting on that first day, if I had to give any advice to any parent going into survival swim classes, I would definitely say it's going to be hard to watch. It definitely go towards the parenting like area, because it'll keep you from wanting to naturally react because you want to go in there and save your baby. But don't hold back the tears. Don't feel embarrassed if you really need to like really cry it out. And if you do, just walk out. I mean, I couldn't because I wanted to be there and watch him the whole time like a hawk. But I wish the advice that I was given was to just embrace, not really welcome, because I mean, it's not a great feeling, but just embrace that feeling, or whatever it is, whatever feeling that you end up having. And maybe for you, it's not like shocking or whatever, but I feel like for the majority, especially first time parents, it's a big deal. And yeah, don't hold back the tears. Let the emotions come in the waves that they come in, and let them wash back out. And just because I think if I had to hold on to that, then I think he would have maybe absorbed some of it. It made me feel better. I don't know if it made him feel better, but it made me more prepared and a better parent as we moved forward. And it did not really get any easier, but I knew what to expect. I still cried the second and the third day, but the instructor saw how emotional it was affecting me. And so she was very checking in on me through Facebook Messenger after the lessons, telling me kind of a recap. He's doing great. Kind of just giving me that sense of encouragement, like, you're doing a great job. This is really good for him, and kind of reinforcing that importance to me, which I thought was really nice as a parent. And he's doing fantastic. He's able to float for, I think, like 2 minutes. He's still trying to figure out how to float or rotate on his back, but he swims to you. And then when he loses sight or he doesn't feel like he can see the person, he does try to rotate on his back, which is a good sign. So he still has 2 weeks left, and hopefully he gets it down. She knows what she needs to work on, and so that's what's going to happen next week. And I'm always by the water. I mean, I'm a paddleboard instructor and I teach beach yoga, and I love the water. My husband goes fishing almost literally every weekend. It is his de-stressing activity. And so, he's looking forward to the day where he can actually take Garfield with him to fish. And, it's not all fishing areas are like the beach where it's sandy, like it's at a pier or like a cliff looking area. And so, should God forbid he would to ever fall in, I need to make sure that he knows how to float. And knowing that he's already showing signs makes me feel so much more at ease as a parent. And I think in the very beginning, when I started to tell people that we were going to be doing survival swim lessons, I was surprised how much controversy it created in certain conversations. And some people really felt like it was a mean thing to put a child through or barbaric. And I think it all stems from the misunderstanding between survival swim lessons for infants and toddlers and kids swim lessons, which are two very, very different elements or things. I go more in depth in the YouTube video because I actually created a slideshow, but essentially it's straightforward. It's what it sounds like. It's survival swim lessons. We're literally not teaching him to necessarily learn how to enjoy and leisurely swim. He's a toddler. He's an infant. I want to make sure that he knows if he should ever fall into any kind of body or water, that he immediately will float onto his back. And if he can see the ledge or some kind of thing to grab onto, that he will swim to it. And if he has trouble and he can't, he will float on his back and cry, basically. Swim classes for kids usually starts a little bit older, and I think it's like between the ages of 3 to 5 is usually when people start those, and that's very different. Parents are usually more involved in those lessons. The lessons are a lot longer and they're stretched out over a longer period of time. Survival swim classes are very compacted and intense. It's 15 minutes every day, 5 days a week for 6 weeks. And I really was like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. When we got through like week 2, it felt like it was just taking like, oh my God, this was so stressful for him and I. And I think the bigger part for us was trying to find a schedule or a rhythm that worked for us, because in the mornings, we usually would go work out together, do a fat parent and sea sprout like workout at a park. We would do a walk or a run together. And we replaced that with survival swim lessons, which to me, I replaced something that was like stress relieving and fun with something traumatic and stressful for both of us. And I think that really played a big role in me as a parent, him as a toddler. I really needed to find something or a way to reschedule ourselves to bring something that was not as brought a little bit more balance, I guess, to our lives. Because then we couldn't go to story time, or he missed that opportunity to interact with other kids. He was with kids in the pool. These are one-on-one sessions, and so they're every 15 minutes. And unfortunately, we try to be there 10 to 15 minutes early. So he ends up having to, his experience and interaction with other kids are them crying if they're there anticipating to go, or he's watching them in the water screaming, like he does when we get there. So it really just wasn't great. And for me, I could feel the stress. I could feel the tension building in my body. And I'm trying to stay strong, but it was really impacting me. I could see the changes in my parenting. I was becoming less patient, and just even towards my husband, which really, wasn't fair either. And so I really ended up having to really force myself to try to do yoga in the afternoon. And eventually, because it's now summer, our solution was to let him wake up early and go to the park. He would then take a nap, and then we would go to swim. And so that's worked out really well, because even that little walk, it's like 10 minutes from our house, the park that we tend to go to because we just found it and it's awesome. And it's cool enough, so it's not super like exhausting. He has fun, but he gets exhausted to the point, because there is still that heat element, that he does nap well, and then I can get him to swim, and he does what he needs to do. So I highly encourage, if you want to learn more about the differences, to watch the YouTube video. You can find my YouTube channel at Fat Mermaids, PhatMermaids. And so whether, you're a parent considering survival swim lessons for your child, or you're simply interested in understanding the importance of it, I really hope that this episode helped. My husband is, I hope, looking forward to his parent day. He's going to take the mid-morning off to go and do this with him. And he chose to not necessarily want to be there originally. He tried to watch the video and he's like, don't send me anymore. Like, you almost made me cry in front of a bunch of Marines. And it was really hard for him to watch. I mean, he literally couldn't finish the video, and it wasn't even that long. It was like seconds, like less than a minute. But he worries, and I didn't realize how much it was affecting him until later on. And so I hope that Thursday's parent day with him is encouraging for my husband to also now understand and kind of feel that sense of reward as a parent, to see his progress and how well he's swimming and how much fun he actually has in the water when one of us is in the water with him. But he understands the importance. My husband just naturally is not a great swimmer. He is just very body dense, and so it's hard for him to swim. And he can manage to float for a little bit, but he's not like by any means a swimmer. He probably can swim enough to survive and get out of the water should he fall in, but that's about it. So he knows that it's important for Garfield to learn these survival swim skills. And that's really what it is. I don't want to create any like an environment where you're feeling pressured, but some statistics to take away is that, according to some statistical research I did, the leading cause of accidental death among infants and young children is drowning, and it's accidental drowning. On average, there's actually, I was shocked to even learn about this, that 3 children die every day due to drowning in the US, which I just was like, that in itself, as a parent, should make you want to cry or get emotional. I mean, to think that 3 parents, 3 sets of parents having to deal with the loss of a child in an accidental drowning is just, I can't even imagine. And I think the main point is that most of these accidental drownings, I think 90% of them happen in residential pools, and they're considered silent deaths, meaning that most people assume that if a child was to fall into the water, that it's going to be loud, they're going to be able to, sound will be their key that something happened. And it really isn't like that. They sometimes, usually because they're so small, you most likely will not hear them fall into the water, like the splash or anything that you're assuming you will be like your key to, oh my God, something just happened, or where are they, or look for them. It doesn't happen that way. They call them the silent drownings, because they happen quietly. And usually the drowning happens within, I think, 30 seconds is what our coach told us, which is not a lot of time. And so survival swim lessons improve your chances, your child's chances of survival in a situation like that. And that really is the main thing that people need to consider. If you are not around water, you don't have a pool at home, then I would consider maybe doing swim lessons for your children, like when they're a little bit older. But if you're around the water a lot, you're in the lakes, you're in rivers, you live by a body of water. Like if you go on nature walks and stuff, and there's, rivers and bodies of waters that you're commonly around, especially if you have a pool in your apartment complex, condo complex, residential housing neighborhoods, or in your backyard, then I definitely think you need to consider survival swim lessons. Now, it is a commitment, both financially and time. And that I understand is a factor. For here in Okinawa, Japan, the earliest you can enroll your child into survival swim lessons is 12 months. In the States, I think you can enroll them as early as 6 months. And they do have some scholarships for parents who really want to put their child into survival swim lessons but can't afford it through Swim Life. So if you go to swimlife.com, you can look up information on how to apply for the scholarships, if that's something that you need to look, in order to make it happen. But for us, we kind of ended up budgeting it out because we knew that it was something that we really wanted to invest in. And, it's a personal choice at at the end of the day, it's a personal choice, but something I definitely think you should consider. If you're currently pregnant, something to consider, maybe start budgeting for now. Swim Life is who we chose to go with, not just because they have a great presence and they're very well respected, but also because we had a profound amount of testimonials here on island from families that we trust who have put their children through basically the same program with Swim Life Okinawa. And so that's how we found our Coach Sandra. She's amazing. As of the recording from July 2023, she still has some openings for August. So if you're looking for a swim instructor, or you've been inspired to enroll your child into survival swim lessons, then definitely look her up. You can look her up on Facebook under Coach Sandra Swim Life Okinawa. And she has an Instagram page, but she's mostly on Facebook. And you can also look at my website, www.fatmermaidsclub.com. That's PHAT, not FAT. And if you look on my blogs, I did a blog about survival swim lessons. And there I include her link to her page so that you can also get her information that way. And I also include her information in my YouTube episode video that I did. So we're excited. I'm excited to see his final progress and kind of figure out where we're supposed to go from here. But I hope that this was helpful. He's definitely getting more confident. You can tell, even like we can barely take like baths now because he wants to show me his skills. Like he wants to put his head underwater, and I'm like, no, 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 no. And she does warn you that bath times are not necessarily a good idea. If you have to do a bath time, make it very short. And so I have to really make sure that the water is like low. We are doing more showers now instead of baths, and it's just fun to see though. And Parent Day was like the cherry on top for me because I actually got to see him. Like he loves being in the water when I'm there. But of course, he's still learning how to swim. He's not a perfect swimmer. So there's still anxiety when I have to hand him off, but he wasn't crying as much last week. And again, I think this week was more emotional because he had such a long break. But I encourage you, if you're a parent out there who is currently going through survival swim lessons, I completely feel you. It is so hard to watch, but at the end of the day, just remember why you're doing it. The survival skills that they are learning is just priceless, and their safety is the most important thing. So if you enjoyed today's episode, thank you so much for staying to the end. I hope that this was helpful. You found some inspiration, you gained some valuable insights, and you feel empowered to now navigate this current in possibly your life as you look into survival swim lessons or kids lessons if your child's already kind of older. Like I said, kids lessons start, I think, 3 years older or older, they become just kids lessons, and it's a little bit different. Swim Life has those instructors. I think Coach Sandra, she does both, so you can also reach out to her if you had any questions. But if you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe to my podcast here on Spotify. We also have the podcast on YouTube if you are more of a visual learner and want to watch the podcast visually. Enjoy my incredible fat community. Together, I want to make sure that we can learn how to grow and really paddle forward to life that's filled with, fulfillment, authenticity, grace, and possibilities. Remember that you have the power within you to create the life that you desire. Keep paddling forward. Never forget that the journey itself is where the magic actually happens. To be present as a parent, as a person. And until next time, as always, stay fat, stay strong, stay present, stay beautiful, and embrace the adventure that lies ahead. This is Anna Connie Walters, host of Paddle Forward podcast, signing off.